Hi everybody, hope everyone had a good bank holiday weekend. It's been pretty good weather. A lot's happened since that. Thank you, those notes. Got all the notes everywhere. I'll put them in the back of the book. But yeah, no, we've had a lot going on in sport. Obviously, we've had Stoke relegated from the Premier League, and two of their key players, in Jack Butland and Charlie Adam, come out and be exceptionally critical of Stoke's transfer policy and the playing group, and along that, also probably management as well. VAR failure in the Australian League final, grand final in the A-League. We're talking a month before the World Cup, and there's a VAR failure that could have consequences going forward for the use of the World Cup and how what the remit will be in the World Cup. So interesting there. But no, it is very, very interesting what's going on at the moment in sport. There's issues around Chris Froome and should he be riding in the Giro d'Italia. There's all sorts of things going on. So let's just go through some of the videos I've done recently. I'll go through the last couple of videos. These are I did a video on the foundation of the Premier League the other day. I did a video on the history of the MLS the other day as well. And then we've got, so we'll start with the history of the MLS. Did a video on that, so if anyone's got any questions about the MLS or anything at all, I'll be interested to hear, considering this is the first time since 1990 the US have not been in the World Cup. So 28 years consistently they've been in the World Cup, every World Cup, and they haven't made it this year. So we could look at the strength of league, the strength of youth development, the strength of the teams. Clearly fans are buying in, because Atlanta United averages 70,000 a game, so fans are buying in and buying the tickets and watching the games. It's whether enough youth development is taking place that is of a decent enough level, and whether coaching is at a decent enough level, and whether there's enough talented American players also playing in Europe and learning their stripes in the European leagues. But we've got to look at how the MLS has grown, and we've got to look at the future. And in the future, we've got Miami and Nashville joining. So very interesting times ahead. The issue I have with Miami is Miami teams, for some reason, don't draw well. And no one can explain that to me, why they don't draw well. But that's interesting. So we've got to look at the fact that we've currently got 23 teams, going to be 25 in 2 years' time. So long term, league's looking good. But in the short term, there are issues, and it's to do with structures, and it's to do with youth development, league stability, long-term stability for players, contracts, all sorts. I've also done a video on the history of the Premier League. Obviously, that was founded in 1992, and it originally had 22 teams, now 20. And we discussed the founding teams. And there's some notable exceptions from the founding team list of teams that aren't there, that are in the Premier League now, and teams that were founding Premier League that aren't there now, that are in the lower divisions. I've made reference to the fact that in 95, the decision was made in the 95-96 season to reduce the league by 2 teams, and that only 6 teams have ever won the title. And the most successful team is Man United with 13 of them. So half the titles pretty much won have been Man United's. And there's no winter break. That's another thing that's very, very important, is that with the Premier League at the moment, there is no winter break. None. It's interesting how ITV were the ones coming up with the idea of the Premier League, and Sky got the TV deal and BBC got the highlights rights. That's interesting. But now let's have a look at some of the other videos we've done today. We've done the VAR failure on the A-League Grand Final, and that's interesting in the fact that a month before the World Cup, and Australia are at the World Cup, but no Australian referees are going, which is interesting. The A-League Grand Final was decided by a VAR failure, and that has got ramifications long term, because when the head of the A-League, the chairman of the A-League, has to come out and state that, yeah, this final was decided by technical error, and I apologise. Oh, it's the only error we've had all season, but the final's been decided because we screwed up. That's not good. We could argue the Melbourne Victory were the better side. I've got some viewers from Australia who do watch Australian sport, who are from the Melbourne area. So we could argue that Melbourne should have won, shouldn't have won, whatever. But the fact that the VAR failed at a crucial time and the goal shouldn't have been allowed could have changed the direction of the game, could have changed how the game was played, all sorts, is pretty striking. But Greg O'Rourke, the head of the A-League, has come out and basically said, yeah, the only failure we've had all season is in the grand final. We're sorry. And this comes weeks before the World Cup. About a month before the World Cup kicks off, this happens. So that's going to be fresh in FIFA's minds when it comes to the World Cup. And FIFA have just fined the Russian Federation £20,000 for racist chanting from Russian fans towards French players in a friendly in March. So there's a lot on FIFA's plate. Simon Grayson leaving Bradford City. We looked at his time at Bradford and we looked at his time at Sunderland. He's not had a good year as a manager in the last 12 months. It's been pretty naff. He took over Bradford in 6th. They finished 11th. They went on a horrible run. He walked away from the club. He was offered a contract by Bradford and he turned it down. We've discussed that today. Major League Baseball, this is an interesting one, and they have now confirmed the dates of their games, for next year in June between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, the two biggest supported baseball teams in North America. The one issue I have is it's taken this long for Major League Baseball to go into the European market and go, look, here's our product. This is what we have for you. This is what we have to showcase. Considering that the NBA, NHL, and NFL have been doing it for the better part of 2 decades. The NFL's been doing it for 10 years. The NHL has been doing it intermittently and for about a decade. And the NBA has been doing it for 20 years. That Major League Baseball has finally come to the UK or come to Europe, because it was meant to last year, pulled out, and it was meant to in 2012 and pulled out. So Major League Baseball had 2 previous opportunities and has screwed it up. So that's interesting. That's the big stories. I've done a few other videos as well, amongst other things like Israel Folau. He's courted more controversy with his views on homosexuality. That's getting him in hot water, and it looks like he may be having a move from the Brumbies to the Waratahs to Queensland Reds. That could be interesting, and he may also leave the Australian setup, which could be crucial for next year's World Cup. And Stoke City's Jack Butland and Charlie Adam have criticised the club's transfer policy and the club's playing group going long term. Hello there. So those are the videos I've done lately. I've also done a video on Tim Payne being named Australia captain going forward, and I think he will keep that position on a permanent basis when Steve Smith and his ban expires. And the Indians have also pulled out of having a day-night test match in Adelaide. They refused to play a day-night test match in Adelaide in the series later in the year against the Australians as well, which is interesting considering that's one of the few ways you're going to save Test cricket. So, hello there. Any questions you have, feel free to ask them. We haven't done a live stream for about a week. I was just going over, if you've just joined, I was just going over some of the big videos and some of the big issues we've discussed this week, really. We've had a busy weekend during the UK. We've had a national holiday, so we're all off work and being lazy and getting suntanned, and yeah, not doing much. But there's a lot to talk about. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to get them ready, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Otherwise, this would be a very boring live stream if no one asks me any bloody questions. But I'm interested to see what you guys ask me and what you guys want to talk about. I find you guys a very interesting bunch with a lot of interesting topics to talk about, a lot of interesting knowledge, and an interest in a variety of sports. It is interesting. But on the cricket side, because I know, Virat, you're a cricket fan, the India-Australia Test Series, the Indians have backed out of playing a day-night test match, which really surprises me, considering that news confirmed. Yes, he is. He is going to be playing for Surrey. He is playing for my local county team here in the UK. He will be playing. It is big news, but it isn't getting covered a lot because there's a lot going on in British sport at the moment, which is overshadowing the fact that he signed for Surrey before the Indian Test series and the India-Pakistan Test series this summer. But yes, he is. He is going to be playing for Surrey. I expect him to play reasonably well. It's going to give him a sighting of what an English wicket's about, and of course Surrey play at the Oval, and I think there is a Test match at the Oval this summer. So I'm not surprised he's gone for Surrey. It is big news, but it's not getting the coverage here in the UK that I think it should, because there's other sporting stories that are dominating. And considering that the FIFA World Cup is a month away, and we're building up towards that, and we've had the climax of the rugby, the ice hockey, and the football seasons over here. Cricket hasn't really been in the news much, but no, it is interesting. Hi. Okay, that's not a problem, but Mike, it's not a problem. As long as you have a good holiday and you enjoy your bank holiday, I hope you enjoyed your bank holiday, and Mike, enjoy the rest of your holiday with your partner, and hopefully this weekend I'll have a stream. I'm starting my new job next week, so video timings when I post videos will be different. I'll be doing them more in the evening than in the daytime because of the hours I'll be working. So I'll do a channel update video close to the time, but I hope to see you this weekend on a live stream. So look after yourself. Mike, Vera, do I think it will help county or hurt England in the Test? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know with Virat Kohli, because he is such a interesting character. He's a very interesting character. He's a bit of an ego. He's a very dominating force in a dressing room and on a pitch, and sometimes his ego and his attitude gets him in trouble. But he may struggle. He may struggle in the month or two that he's with Surrey. He may find it very difficult to adapt to the English conditions, although it has been very, very warm here lately, and the weather's been very, very good. The beginning of the season was bad weather. Matches were abandoned and had weather delays. The weather's been very, very good, and I'm expecting a very hot summer, so that may affect how the English wickets perform and how and behave, and how the ball swings, and if it's a dry outfield, those balls will skid away. So we have to see how the weather will affect how he plays. It could go either way. He could have a torrid time on English wickets this summer, or he could have a very, very good time. We have to see what players get selected for England as well. There's reasons to believe that some of the squad may get dropped, some young faces may get thrown in. So we have to see what happens closer to the time. We have to see what happens closer to the time. We've got a good month to wait. But as I say, over here in England at the moment, the media is mostly focusing on the end of the football season, the end of the rugby season. The ice hockey season's just finished. British ice hockey's had a brilliant year this year. So British media is focusing on other stories more. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Test series gets more and more momentum, because we're playing Pakistan as well, and then we're playing India. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the next month or so. And it'll be interesting to see who gets selected for England as well as who gets selected for India, and how those younger players coming in perform as well. So I can't really tell you if it's good or bad yet. We have to wait and see, how Virat Kohli adapts to the English wickets and English conditions, which at the moment, the weather isn't that bad. It's quite good weather at the moment, so that may suit him. If there's more rain delays and bad light delays, that could suit him less. I don't know. I don't know enough about Virat Kohli as a first-class cricketer. I know more of him about a T20 cricketer. So he's a very explosive player. But we have to literally wait and see how he adapts, and also who gets selected for both Test sides. That's my honest opinion. I think it's too early to say it will help or hurt England or county cricket. I think he's a great addition to Surrey as one of their overseas players. England, I don't know if it hurts or harms us, because that means some of the England bowlers will actually get to have a bit of target practice at Virat Kohli. They could work out any weaknesses he has in his game, so it could actually be beneficial for England, the fact that he's playing over here. But that's my opinion on that. I don't really have anything else to say. It is big news, but it's not being as well covered as it should be. Um, I think Joe Root's still captain, as far as I'm aware, but there's going to be a lot of young new faces in the Test team, and you could say that about a variety of England teams at the moment, not just in cricket, but in the rugby and the football. We have some captaincy and leadership issues in the various national sides that we put out in various sports, and so on that aspect, I couldn't tell you. I think it would be Joe Root. Out on the same token, it's difficult to quantify, because of the Ashes series being so diabolical, and then the Test series in New Zealand not being much better. A lot of players really underperformed over the last 18 months, and I'm saying that as an honest assessment. England, as a Test team, at home were decent. Away from home, we're absolutely atrocious, and I have no idea why that is, because we have some of the best players in the world, and they just are not performing right now. And there's multiple reasons for that. Coaching could be an issue. Selection. Oh no, totally against 100-ball cricket. A lot of the players are as well, because they haven't been consulted. A lot of the fan groups are, and I think they're basically trying to kill T20 cricket by the ECB, and they're the only governing body of a Test nation that are trying to do this. No one else is doing it. The players were looking forward to having a renewed T20 competition going forward, so they're not happy. And I think Andrew Strauss has made a complete blunder with how they're trying to present it to the public and who they're targeting it at. They've got the target group all wrong. They're being very short-sighted. There's nothing wrong with T20. There's nothing wrong with one-day format, and there's nothing wrong with the Test cricket, apart from you could improve all three formats a little bit. There's no point in bringing a brand new sport, because the last over makes no sense. Having 3 men bowl a 10-ball over it is completely illogical. Why not have 10-over cricket then? I don't know why they've decided to do this random arbitrary number. Why not halve the T20 into the shortest format of the game and make it literally a sprint? Basically, it's a 10-over power play. 10-over cricket would be a better solution than 100 balls. I have no idea why they've decided to do that. Okay, Cons Law, Jets Predators. I'm going for a Jets win tomorrow night, simply because whoever plays away from home wins the games. If I'm honest, all you've got to do is play away from home and you win. So I'm thinking the Jets will want to bounce back. They're going to be annoyed with a 4-0 shutout. But as I'm a Jets fan, I would have a bit of bias in there. But looking at how the series has gone, these are the 2 best teams in the league overall. This is the only 7-game series in the second round. So that surprised me a little bit, but I thought there'll be a few more 7-game series. What surprised me more is the Penguins are out. Yes. So Sidney Crosby does not get the trophy again, which is beautiful, because I couldn't stand Sidney Crosby. He's doing one up. He's winning too much. I think it's going to be a close game, but it all depends on Pekka Rinne. If Pekka Rinne plays like he did last night, Predators win. If he plays like they played for the rest of the series, Jets win. That's how simple it is. It all depends on the goaltending. Overall, it's been a brutal series. I think the Jets are shading the series overall, really, in reality. But the Jets have never been here before, and the Predators haven't been here that often either. So it's an experience thing for both sides. Do I think the Champions League women, Liverpool, they have a chance? Yes, they do have a chance, but defensively they've got to be a bit tighter. But Ronaldo being out gives them a better opportunity. Salah has been on form this season. I think he needs to improve his consistency a little bit. But Jurgen Klopp's got to the Champions League final before. He's won trophies before. So they have a very, very good chance of winning. It's still a 50-50, because Real Madrid. These are two of the most successful teams in Champions League history going against each other, and they both have a history in this competition. But with Ronaldo out for Real Madrid and Real Madrid not being on form this season compared to Barcelona and Atletico, Liverpool have a better chance. It will be a very interesting final. I expect it to be a very open final, and I can see teams defensively being challenged, and it will come down to goaltending and goalkeeping and defence. Really, it all depends if Liverpool get out of the blocks quick. They've proven what they can do to Man City. They've proven what they can do to Roma in the one-off game. Neutral venue. I don't see any reason why they can't do it. But then again, defensively they have been frail at times this season, so that's a concern I have is defensively. But they have a very good chance. As a person who isn't a fan of Liverpool, but I have seen Liverpool games in person and on TV, so I have seen the team play years past. They have a very good shot. That's what I'm going to say on that. They have a very, very good chance of getting some silverware. And bear in mind, they spent a lot less money than Man City, and they hammered them in the quarterfinal. So it's not all about money sometimes. Oh, it is, because Liverpool are big spenders, but they're not as big as spenders as Real Madrid or Man City. Yet they've shown that they can be as competitive as a bigger spender. So they do have a very good chance, yes. But I'm not writing out Real Madrid either. Real Madrid have got to 3 Champions League finals in a row, so there's no writing out of Real Madrid here either. It's not going to be a foregone conclusion. This should go to extra time and penalties and things like that. I'm not surprised that England players who want to play for the Test side are leaving early. It does interest me when the ECB have tried for so many years to prevent English players playing in the IPL, and even when they do allow them to go, they are being a pain in the arse, saying, "Do you want to play for England, really?" Because if you stay out there, you're not going to play. They basically bully the players to leave earlier than they should. Cricket is a global sport. The ECB's got to get its head out of its arse. Simply, the 100-ball format. No idea why they've come up with that idea, and they're actually harming England players rather than helping them. And England players have come out and said, "We weren't consulted on this 100-ball format very well. We're not happy." So I'm not surprised he's coming back early. I think the ECB have put some pressure on him, which I don't think is right. Maybe you reduced a 2-test series in summer to 1 to allow the IPL to be played. I don't know. That's my opinion. But we've got a 2-test series this summer rather than 1, so we have to go with that. That's how the ICC works out the Test fixture list. We'll have to see, how Mark Wood plays if he is, playing in the England side. But it is what it is. I mean, the IPL is, I think, the biggest cricket tournament in the world, and it's broadcast all around the world. So I'm quite surprised by the ECB's insistence on basically trying to kill the format of the game in the UK. Just really surprised. But if he gets selected, he gets selected. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's one of them. Pakistan, I have no idea on Pakistan anymore. We're still fresh in our minds how they, spot fixed and match fixed in 2010. So I think Pakistan have that, unfortunate, reputation of alleged match fixing amongst them. Personally, no, I don't think they can. I think Pakistan have a lot of problems within their Test side and cricket in their country, and corruption and various other issues. And so I don't know. But with the way England played over the winter, anything's possible. I mean, anything is possible right now with international cricket and with what we've seen with the Australians and the aftermath of the ball tampering. Anything's possible. I honestly though, Pakistan have got a bad reputation of, you know, some suspicious matches they played where they look like they're not trying their hardest or they're deliberately losing. So I don't know. I'm never sold on the Pakistani team anymore. The Pakistani team, there's too many questions more than answers. If if England whitewashed them, I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the games Pakistan actually plays to their potential. It it is what it is. Match fixing in Pakistan and cheating and dodginess and corruption is too many negatives with Pakistani cricket at the moment. They're not even allowed to play test matches in their home country. So that just shows, the state that Pakistan finds their cricket at the moment. That's my personal opinion. I'm not sure whether they can be, with the way England have been playing the last 18 months, anything's possible. That's my honest assessment. Look, I don't know what it is about the ECB. They basically, for some reason, with the IPL, they're trying to stop English players going. The T20 competition in this country they're trying to kill off, even though they revamped it. I don't know what the ECB are doing at most of the time. I don't know what the ECB are doing most of the time. There's a lot of structural problems with the ECB. They need to get some young, fresher faces and fresh voices and fresh blood in the organisation to drive it forward. The 100 ball format series they've come up with, the idea is stupid. And the way they've marketed it, the marketing has been all wrong. I don't know. Some of the actions of the ECB surprised me. I'm not sure what I don't know what to expect from one week to the next with them. I think they've got issues with selection policy. They've got issues with player development, and the fact that English players want to go play in these T20 competitions and develop their skills, and they're basically saying no, we don't want you to. Anyway. But it is what it is. I wouldn't call myself an expert on cricket. I'm just a fan of the sport and what I see. And the ECB does. I don't have confidence in the ECB long term. That's my personal opinion on things. I do not have confidence in the organisation long term. They need structural reform. It's the same with the FA, with football, and I think even possibly the RFU with rugby to a point. I think there needs to be constant fresh faces and fresh impetus, and that's what the ECB doesn't have at the moment. Too many old boys in their old boys club, too many outdated ideas, too many structural, like they haven't updated the structures of the ECB for over 100 years. It needs fresh thinking, not silly 100 ball formats. That doesn't work. But they have basically tried to hinder the development of T20 in England for the best part of a decade. So I have no idea why, because it actually harms the development of players. And it's bad for the game. And they wonder why Test cricket is struggling at times, and they wonder why England aren't doing well away from home over the last 18 months. It's closer to home than you think. Well, some very interesting points that you've raised there. I'm not saying they're wrong points. They are very interesting points that you raise, and it is interesting, what we've got to look forward to this summer in cricket. But on the same token, there's a lot of negatives with cricket at the moment. I'm surprised you haven't asked me about Tim Paine being made Australia's captain for the next 11 months. I think that was a very good move by Cricket. One of the few good moves by Cricket Australia was to get a safe pair of hands like him in. And I think he stays in the captaincy job long term for the next few years. I don't think Steve Smith gets the captaincy back. I think Tim Paine will stay as captain, but that's my personal opinion. Oh God, paperwork everyone. What's this? But no, I mean, you've raised some very interesting points and some very interesting questions, and it's interesting. Obviously, you're from India, and cricket's your main sport, but it's interesting that you've asked me about Liverpool and their chances in the Champions League, for example. I don't know. I mean, how big is football in India? That's a question. How big is the sport in India? Because clearly, um, it's on your radar, because you asked the question about Liverpool in the Champions League. And I'm interested to hear and see from people around the world what sports they like, what sports they don't like, what they want me to discuss. Because I'm happy to discuss anything really. I honestly am. We've had a lot of interesting questions on these live streams. We've had a lot of interesting topics come up. We've discussed a lot of things. Okay, this is the thing. I did not know how big it is in India. How I know there's an Indian football league. I'm aware of that, but I'm not sure like how much of the European leagues and South American leagues you get to see. That's what I'm interested about. Owen, nice to see you again. Thoughts on Stoke? I've done a couple of videos, and I've had some mixed responses from Stoke fans. But my thoughts is the transfer policy. I've done a video on that today. The fact that Jack Butland and Charlie Adam have come out and basically slated this club's transfer policy, and they've slated members of the playing group. Stoke, I think they had gone. I mean, they needed some more fresh blood, and they didn't bring it in. The transfer policy is part of the reason why they are where they are, and it will explain why they didn't do so well at the start of this season. It's never got going. They hit a slump at the end of last season. It carried on this season. Mark Hughes lost the playing group, or he wasn't happy there either. There was some kind of environment that's not right, because if the environment was still a positive environment, even though they're in a tough place, Jack Butland and Charlie Adam don't come out and criticise the club's transfer policy. I think Stoke was waiting to happen. Several clubs were waiting to happen. Hello, people who just joined. But no, I do think Stoke being relegated, if it didn't happen this season, it would have happened next year. That's my honest opinion on the whole Stoke relegation. If it didn't happen this season, it would have happened next year. When it comes to back to Virat there, I mean, you're saying that the English Premier League and the Liga are quite big, but do you get all the European leagues in India? That's something I'm interested about, because like I don't know what your TV rights are and how is it free to air? Do you have to pay for it? I'll be very interested to see how it's marketed over there as well. How what does everyone's favourite team in India, things like that, because it's a big market, and I think every season we talk about the TV rights deal over here in the UK and how the clubs could let us in for free. But there we go. What's my favourite meme? I have many. Many. Too many memes to count. Oh, great. We have a couple of morons. Yay! We have some morons on the live stream tonight, don't we? We're going to do pop-up chat. Yeah, I mean, we do get the occasional moron on live stream, so we're just gonna. I mean, to be fair, if I did fuck Ivanka Trump or Melania Trump, I'd be quite happy, actually, to be fair, fucking either of them. But here's the thing. We have some idiots, so we're going to remove them. We are going to report. That's sexually explicit, and we're going to report that. And bye-bye. Yeah, you are a moron. So, and you can't even spell moron correctly. So it just shows how inbred you are. Bye-bye. Fucking idiot. India. Okay, the India squad. We've discussed Virat Kohli. Playing for Surrey. That'll be interesting. I don't know enough about the Indian squad. There are still issues around the England squad because we've got to play Pakistan first. There's a lot of discussion points to talk about over the next couple of weeks. But here's the thing: the cricket has not really got the press attention that other sports has, because bear in mind the cricket season is just getting started, and the football and the rugby and the ice hockey are finishing. What country do I live in? I live in the UK. And this is a sports-based channel. So if you've got no sports questions, you're in the wrong place, I'm afraid. But no, I mean it's interesting. If we look at, let's say, what's going on in the various leagues at the moment as well. I know the England squad's been announced. For us, the England squad hasn't yet. We've still got places up for grabs. Right, Bill. I honestly didn't know what your TV coverage of foreign sports or foreign leagues was. Obviously, I know IPL is the thing in India, but I wasn't 100% certain on what sports and what leagues you got. So if you've got everything, then that's pretty cool. It's a big market. You've got 1 billion people in India. So, and we over here in the UK, we discuss a lot of things to do with the TV rights deal that the English Premier League has, and how we're paying a stupid amount of money for to watch, and then to go to a game is expensive. Do you know what country it is by my name? I don't know. Spain, Mexico, Brazil, a shithole. I don't know. If you're just here to put up a silly comments, you can sod off, because I'm not really interested in. Okay, we've got a Latvian. Okay, quick tip. This is a sports channel. So unless you've got sports-based questions, you're in the wrong place. That's all I'm saying. I don't speak any Latvian. So unless you've got some sports-based questions, you are in the wrong place. Simple. If you're just here to annoy people, you're in the wrong place. I'm assuming when they're paying 6.8 million, is that rupees? Because if that's in pounds or dollars or euros, that is a lot per match, because that's insane. But it is very interesting that you mentioned you get a lot of sports from around the world. So US dollars, 6.8 million US dollars for a game. I mean, that is a lot of money. A lot of money. If that was rupees, that would make sense to me. But the dollars, no, that's insane. For a T20 match, that's madness. My favourite sport, ice hockey. Ice hockey is my favourite sport. I'm a big fan of the NHL, as you can tell. And yeah, I go to games all the time here in the UK, and we have Latvians playing in the English UK ice hockey system. But it's interesting how little you have to pay a month, because I'm assuming you're using dollars and US dollars, $10 a month. Over here, it's a hell of a lot more money than that. What gets me is the TV rights deal that has been signed for the English Premier League and other sports. A lot of these teams could let us in for free, and they don't. They keep putting the ticket price up. So I'm very interested to see what a ticket price, if you're using US dollars, would be for an IPL game. That'll be interesting. What a ticket price for an IPL game would be in India. That's something that I'll be interested in, because it's interesting to see how other countries price their tickets and price their sports. Because this is a discussion that comes up a lot on this channel. I think the national sport of Latvia, I think ice hockey is quite popular, and I think football's quite popular. I know football, they have a good national side, and ice hockey, they have a good national side. So it's one of those two, and they're very good at basketball as well. Well, here's the thing about the IPL. I don't know how much it costs to go see a game if you were to convert the rupees to dollars or pounds, because ticket pricing is a question that comes up a lot on this channel and on live streams, and it gets discussed a lot on some of my other live streams. Now, Sajid, I'm assuming you're either in the Maldives for work, I'm assuming, or holiday. The Maldives is not actually that far from India. They do have a lot of the people in the Maldives have are on working contracts in the tourist resorts. A lot of tourists go there. You're on holiday. Yeah, no, a lot of British tourists go to the Maldives as well. We've obviously played beach cricket and stuff like that. The locals have seen us play. They have it obviously for the hotels, and that's why you're seeing it, is because the amount of Indian and European tourists who go there, they put it into they stream it at the hotels. So 520. See, that's about right for the level of sport that Latvia is at. That's very similar to prices for ice hockey over here or basketball over here. Football, rugby, a bit different. City to city. So why does it vary from city to city for the IPO in India? That's something else that gets me, because it's the same here in the English Premier League. Ticket prices vary from club to club. So that's interesting on the IPL front. Sajid, the reason why the Maldives probably have cricket beamed there is because of the tourists. A lot of Indians go there. There's a lot of Indian business interest in the Maldives, and a lot of Brits go there on holiday as well. And of course, we play cricket, and they will have it on the TVs because tourists, even though they may be on holiday, still want to watch sport. And that's probably why. And it's the type of tourist that's more wealthier and not so drinking and stuff like that. The more middle class families go to the Maldives, and the upper classes go to the Maldives on cruises. So cricket is a type of sport that does work. But no, it's interesting to see like the prices of tickets for sports in other countries. That is something that is very, very interesting. It's something that gets discussed a lot on this channel. So those who new to the channel, it gets discussed a lot. Ticket pricing and the affordability for fans, and the affordability of the player salaries. It gets discussed a lot. Now, I'm not saying players shouldn't be paid, not at all. But what I'm worried about is they're getting overpaid. I'm not surprised by the Latvian football. That's a very reasonable price for a ticket for the Latvian level, because the Latvian top tier is not as good as, let's say, the Polish league or the Ukrainian or the German. It's not at that level. But the price for football in Latvia is not bad. With the people in the Maldives, yes, there's a lot of ex-Indian guest workers out there as well, working in the resorts. Because a friend of mine, his father is owns a few hotels in the Maldives. He's from Mauritius, and there's a big link with the Indian subcontinent and the Maldives, the Seychelles, and Mauritius. There's a big link in that Indian Ocean area of trade. The island of Mauritius and India, there's a big trade route between East Africa, Mauritius, and the Indian subcontinent. So that doesn't surprise me that the IPL is there. It doesn't matter if the only sports info you have is Latvia on the pricing. It's very interesting how expensive it is to go to games. And it's actually, it wouldn't surprise me if it's cheaper for me to fly to Latvia, watch a Latvian league game, and fly home to England all in the same day than go watch a game in the English Premier League. And I'm not joking on that. And it's been proven by someone. There's some Latvians playing ice hockey in the UK, and there's some Latvians who played in the NHL and the North American leagues. There's a lot of Latvian players who've played at the top level and are very, very good. Basketball, that's to do with the Soviet Union in the 70s and 80s, investing a lot of money into basketball, and it's carried on. But it's interesting because we've got people from all over the world on this live stream tonight, which is good, and it's interesting to see different people's views on sport and how much it costs. So we've had a variation of $12 to $250 approximate. That is insane on the price variation, but I can get on the depending on the seats. But from city to city is really interesting, because it is what it is. Now, I look at some of the ticket prices I've paid for football, for ice hockey, for rugby. and it's interesting, $600 for a ticket. This is interesting because we've got Indians and Latvians talking about the price of sports tickets, and the reason why some seats sell for $600, and I know rupees is a completely different currency and it's really hard to work out, is ticket touts. People will buy tickets up and they become registered on StubHub or the ticket resale websites, and they rip people off. So it's good that Latvia are keeping the prices standard for every seat in the ground. That's good. Um, um, but Lords, again, Lords is an iconic sporting arena in the world, so they can charge what they want. It's a historical arena. It's an historical ground. They can really charge big money for the prime seats. The tickets I got, even when I was a teenager, still were 30 quid for a teenager. So it was mad. It also depends on the test series or the game that's being played as well. That's where they make the money. They still charge too much. Latvia's got some good. Latvia's had some very good football players over the time they've been playing. They've made international tournaments. They made the Euros in 2004, I remember. Latvia's very good at basketball. They're very good at ice hockey. So I would say 65 for the country your size. Bear in mind the country's very small and the population's very small. You've got a KHL team in Dynamo Riga, I believe. You've got players who are playing ice hockey all around the world in the top levels of each country. There's some very good Latvians playing in Europe and in North America as well. And you're very good at basketball. And there are some other good athletes that have come out of Latvia. And off the top of my head, I can't remember names, but I've seen a fair few Latvians over here in the UK playing at the top level of sport. So I would say 65 to 70 out of 100, simply because of your population size, that you can still keep churning out good athletes of a decent standard is pretty good. It shows how good the sporting culture is in your country. You could use some more investment, and you could use, a bit more money going into your leagues to try and keep as many of your best players in your leagues for longer. But at the end of the day, Latvia is a good sporting nation, and many good Latvians have exported their skills all around the world. So not bad for a country of such a small population. That's pretty good going, considering that the city of London is bigger than your country in population. That's not bad. But anyway, we've discussed Latvia. Let's see what else. Yes, England playing India in August. We have to see how England and Pakistan how it goes first, and what happens with that. But again, what I find interesting is in Latvia, the ticket price is the same around the stadium, whereas in India, you're looking at a massive fluctuation between $10 and 600, which I think is wrong. I do think that's wrong. Liam Plunkett, he's an experienced player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's consistent, and I think that's what he needs, is just a bit of faith put in him and have a good run in the IPL. Yes, Ireland is an interesting country in itself. The amount of people who've left Ireland in the last 100 years, and there's more Irish people of Irish descent living in the northeast of the US than in Ireland. There's more people of Irish descent living all around the world than have ever lived in Ireland. That's the thing. It's on a shipping lane, and people have gone around the world from Ireland. And there's things going on with Irish sport right now, like the Paddy Jackson, Stuart Olding. What's happening there now? The press coverage of their trial was not well covered here in England, on the mainland of the United Kingdom, but obviously it was very very big news, obviously. Not the euro with USD changes to. That's about right. The exchange rate, yeah, that's about right. It's similar for pounds as well, because the pound and euro are very close together at the moment. I think £100 is about $135 or $175 or something. It used to be 1 to 2, but now it's less. Yeah. Now, when I did my video saying that Sal had signed him, he had actually been signed, and then they terminated very quickly. Um, I don't think he plays in the Northern Hemisphere for a while. I think what's done him is the aftermath. What came out about the text messages, the WhatsApp, the Instagram, the Twitter, his social media activity. I also think, even though he was found innocent, and we have to go by a court of law here, and we have to be careful what we say, I think there were clearly discipline breaches his entire time at Ulster for a period of time, and the aftermath of his trial was enough for them to go, "We are not having you here anymore." Um, I think he ends up in the Southern Hemisphere. I think he ends up in Super Rugby, and that'll be his best bet. Otherwise, he's not going to play rugby anytime soon. Um, the press coverage, though, wasn't there on the mainland of the UK. It obviously was in Ireland, both north and south of the border, but it didn't get the press coverage over here. The IPL is not is the fastest growing league for wealth in the amount of teams that play and the size of the league. At the same time, however, it's got a long way to go to match the English Premier League, the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, Bundesliga, Super Rugby, NRL. It's got a long way to go to match other leagues. And again, the time it only runs for, it only runs for 2 months. There's a limited amount of teams that play it. But it's not bad going for a small size league in the fact the amount of teams that play, but the interest it gains and the amount of people around the world that watch it is near on 2 billion people worldwide watch the IPL. So in that respect, the viewership is extortionately high, crazily high. It's it's just the size of the league, the amount of teams. It could do with a couple more teams and maybe doing it for 3 months. But it is what it is. There are still leagues that are far more established that are making more money, and it will take a long time for the IPL to get to that level. Any beer league hockey near Birmingham? Not near Birmingham, no, but I wouldn't be surprised if the rec season's about to start. So I think almost every team in the NIHL, so the Solihull Barons, will have a rec team. There are some rec teams out there. You just have to go down your local ice rink and ask if there's a summer rec league, because there is. And it depends if that ice hockey team or club does have a rec league. I've had friends play for Swindon. I've had friends who play for Bracknell and Basingstoke. So there are rec leagues out there and rec hockey out there. Your best bet is go and ask. Go to your local ice rink and ask the question: do you have any rec league? We don't call it beer league over here. We're not Canadian or American. We call it rec league. But the best bet is to go and ask. Yes, they do want to expand the IPL, and yeah, it's the ECB are one of the main problems and one of the main stumbling blocks to growing T20 cricket. And I don't know why they keep doing it. It's good for the game. The game needs it. And for some reason, the ECB are just trying to kill the game. Do I do daily streams? I don't do daily streams anymore. I did for a while. I do them a couple of times a week. They always start at 8 o'clock UK time, sometimes at 7. They normally run between an hour and 3 hours, and it is sports based. So there you go. I cover any sport you want. So if you have a question on the NBA, I would do my research, go off, research the question or the team you want me to research, look at that team or that player or that incident, and then I come back and there's that. Okay, so you're 2 hours ahead. So 10 o'clock your time would be when I start normally. 9 to 10 o'clock is when I normally start for your time. I honestly think that the governing bodies of the various cricketing federations need to sit down together and go, right, this is what's happening now. let's have a long-term plan put in place and a structure put in place that can actually benefit the game in T20, one day, test, and first class. Because if they don't, one or all three of the formats will struggle at some point, and they've got to have a unified purpose of, okay, the young players and the players who've now left the test arena who want to play T20 and one days, fine. Those players who want to play international T20 one days, let's support them. Also, test cricket, let's also support them, and they should be the ones on the centralised contract, should be the test players. Those who want to go get the big money away from centralised contracts should be the T20 and one days. But that's my personal opinion. What country do you think is best on sports? That's an interesting question. There's a lot of good sporting nations out there. The Australians sports mad, both Canadians and Americans in the US sports mad, and pretty much all of Europe is sports mad. South America is sports mad. It's hard to say which country is the best. If you want to go on pure facts, those that win international tournaments: Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, England, European nations in football, South American nations in football, India in the cricket. It's a difficult one because you've got different types of sport and different countries that are better at certain sports than others. So Argentina, Brazil, Chile, in fact, South America, football, and Australia is rugby league. New Zealand is rugby union. England is a multitude, or UK is a multitude of sports. Europe is the same. Many sports are played at very high levels. You go to North America, again, lots of sport. So it's a difficult one, which one is the best, because it depends on the sport. If you're talking about an individual sport, then there's a discussion. If you're talking about multiple sports, it's impossible because every country is good at them. IPL media rights are bigger than the Bundesliga and La Liga. That doesn't surprise me. I know the English Premier League gets a lot of media rights out in India. You've explained that. But the IPL is your domestic competition. You want to sell that to your domestic market, which is 1 billion people. That's a big market. And then you want to sell that abroad to the other 6 billion people in the world, which is another big market. It's all about how it's marketed. Sports marketing is very, very tricky. If you get it wrong, it can damage. You can damage a brand. And Virat Kohli getting paid that much for just 7 weeks is insane. But that's the way sport is going. Did I watch the snooker? No, I didn't. But I did hear about Mark Williams doing his interview naked, as he promised to do. He felt like he should have retired 5 years ago. I'm glad he hasn't. If I'm honest, he's not my favourite player. But no, I didn't really watch a lot of it. I caught a couple of frames, but I've had interviews to go to. I've had mechanical motorcycle stuff to do. I've been trying to, enjoy the weather as much as possible. And I don't particularly want to be sat watching sport when the weather's so nice. This winter's been horrible, so I've been doing a lot of videos. But now the weather's been nice for a prolonged period of time. I'm getting out of the house. You can see I've got a bit of a tan going. I've had to fix my motorcycle, so I've been busy with that and then getting that done. I didn't watch as much as I would like, but at the same time, I've started to go off snooker a little bit. Not because I dislike the sport or I dislike the people playing it. I think the revamp of the entrance music, okay, that's a little bit acceptable. It's a bit like darts, and I don't think that's the way snooker should go down. But there's still a lot of these older players who are just hanging on to careers when, there's more tournaments now. Snooker's an interesting one. I think when Stuart Bingham got done for his betting offensive and Stephen Lee got banned, that's when I started to switch off snooker a little bit, with all these negative stories of alleged match fixing and things like that. I'm not saying it's bad. I like playing it. I like playing pool as well, English pool, American pool. But when Mark Williams does his press conference in the Buff, that I think was brilliant. I only watched little bits of it this year. I feel that I've watched a lot of sport already so far this year. I will have a little bit of break of watching sport all the time. It's sometimes nice to have a few days break. My personal opinion. Otherwise, I'll go mad because I'm starting a new job Monday, so the amount of videos I post will go down, and maybe to a couple in the evening, and it gives me a bit of a break from doing all just sport. This is a hobby, and it doesn't. It's sort of, you need a bit of a break sometimes. Who's going to win the NBA this year? I don't really follow the NBA, but the Golden State Warriors have a very good team, and it will be interesting to see, who does come out the winner. But I'm not a big fan of the NBA. It's a sport that I've never really basketball's a sport I never really enjoyed playing. I don't mind watching it to a point. But it's not a sport I follow religiously, and it is what it is. What sport you think isn't really a sport? Darts. Darts is a pub game. Simple. But it's got prize money to it, so it is classed as a professional sport. There's a very weird, blurred line between sport and game, but you're on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh lost because they lost. I was as surprised as many people that Washington actually won it in 6. But my team, the Jets, have got to play the Predators tomorrow night in Game 7, and I'm not 100% confident, even though I do think they will probably do it. We should also done it in 6. But at some point, the Washington Capitals had to get through to a conference final. You cannot have that many postseason appearances and be that bad. At some point, there would be a bit of give, and they would have to take that next step. I'm not a Chelsea fan. No, I'm a Blackburn fan. I'm not a Chelsea fan. Never have been. I honestly think with the way the Predators Jet series has gone, the team that's playing away plays better. There's been a lot of away wins in that series, and I did say I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 7, but my bracket is already broken because Boston are out. My playoff bracket is broken because Boston lost to Tampa in 5. What's my favourite sports player? That is an interesting one. As an ice hockey fan, it will be an ice hockey player, but I follow rugby as well, both league and union, so I don't really have one. There's a few players that I like, but I don't have a favourite. So I don't have one. There's a lot of teams that I follow, and there's teams that I like, and there's players that I like, and they're normally the hard-working players who go under the radar that other people slag off for not being the most skillful, the most flashy, or the most extrovert. I like hard-working players who can do a shift. Did I see Belly? I didn't. I don't have Sky, but I wasn't surprised that Bellew beat Hay at all. People were talking about the fight for about a week, and I said Bellew's going to do him, and he'll do him quick, and he did. David Hay I don't know what David Hay is about anymore. He seems to be just about himself a lot. He's got a massive ego, and he's not backing up that ego with a lot of product. He passed his best years ago. He was past it a long time before. Was it Klitschko beat him? He's a figure who divides opinion. Is David Hay? I wouldn't say he's a bad boxer. I just think boxing as a sport is dividing opinion at the moment, and the way that the sport is run, and there's other issues with it. David Hay is a shambles. Have I ever watched a Yes, I've watched the Latvian. Well, in Euro 2004, the Latvians obviously got to Euro 2004, so I watched watched all the Latvian games in Euro 2004 in Portugal on the TV, and I was pretty impressed with how solid the Latvian football team was. No, David Hay, from everything I've read, and looking at the scorecard as well, was he was well past it. Bearing in mind he hasn't boxed since Belly beat him last time, and even then he was struggling. So I don't honestly see why he keeps doing these comebacks, because he gets older each day, and he's starting to embarrass himself, I think. But boxing itself has got a lot of problems. How much euros do you think Latvian players are? It depends what the Latvian players are playing. If they're playing in the bigger leagues in Western Europe, they'll get paid more. If they're playing in the Latvian league, they're going to get about what 3 grand a week, which is a decent salary, considering the league level they play at. But I honestly could not tell you. I don't know enough about player salaries in some leagues. There are some leagues I know a lot about, and there's some leagues I don't. And there's some players and some clubs who clearly, are very open about how much they pay their players, and other clubs you can tell they're on less salary, but they're not open about how much they pay. It's a complicated one, because each source comes up with different numbers. Do I reckon Chelsea can sneak a top 4 place and will have won the Champions League? Interesting. I think Chelsea would probably be more focused on the FA Cup final and winning that trophy. And I think Liverpool are focused on the Champions League. So it's an interesting one. Because there's 2 cup finals for both these teams, one of them will probably slip up in the league by focusing their energies on the various finals they're in. Liverpool, yes, they can win the Champions League. They have a very good chance. It was discussed earlier before you came online. Chelsea, they can, but with the way things have been going with Conte and the board, that's got to be distracting. And there's a few issues with some of the players in the Chelsea squad. I also think the whole handling of the Diego Costa transfer movement, that also I think has affected the playing group and the group going forward, considering they were champions last year. But they're like this at the moment, Chelsea. They're good one year, bad the next, good 1 year, mediocre the next. They're very inconsistent in their performances. So they could sneak into the top 4, but they could also miss out because they could focus on the FA Cup, which is automatic European qualification. What country is bad on any sport? You choose what sport? I think at the moment, South Africa in rugby union aren't doing as good as they have been in years past. They have political issues and selection issues. Scotland, when it comes to football, they've got a lot of problems. Italy have got issues when it comes to football at the moment as well. Why am I not watching the Eurovision? Because I have a soul. Eurovision, I'd much rather smoke crap out of a rusty lead pipe. I can't stand Eurovision. It's cringe, it's embarrassing, and I vomit when I watch it. It is television vomit for me. It's horrible. Why everyone thinks he is very competitive, but he does have an attitude problem at times when it comes to some of his antics on the pitch. He does overstep the line that is there, and with everything that has happened with the Australians as well, with the sledging and the ball tampering, that's something that he's got to temper a little bit, because with what's going on with Australia, it's now in the public eye again. Umpires will pick up on it more. He's got to be careful. He's a very competitive player, but at the same time, he can overstep the mark a lot. I'm not sure how popular Virat Kohli is with teammates. That'll be interesting after he's retired, finding out how popular he was with his teammates and the opposition players away from the game. That'll be very interesting. The live stream, another 50 odd minutes. till 11 o'clock, till midnight your time, 10 o'clock here, another hour or so. The fact that Eurovision is still a thing as well is the fact Eurovision is still actually a thing shows how weird we are in Europe when it comes to TV. We have problems as a continent with some of our TV programming and some of the crap we watch. Jesus Christ, we make the Americans look intelligent at times. All right, see you in a bit. But no, I'm surprised no one's asked me about the VAR failure in the A-League Grand Final, because the World Cup is a month away, and the VAR failed. And because the VAR failed, it decided a league title because of that failure. I'm actually surprised no one's asked me about that tonight. But no, I've done a fair few videos on the history of leagues as well. It's a request that keeps coming up. Can you do the history of this league or that league on a video? So I've done the history of the Premier League. I've done a history on the MLS. I've looked at, I think, the history of the NRL at some point last year. Yes, VAR is going to be in the World Cup. And what's the concern for me is the other day, over the bank holiday weekend in Australia, the Australian A-League final was decided because of a VAR failure. The goal should have been disallowed for offside, and the referee goes to the live feed. He gets his earpiece, does that. He goes to the little camera, and the feed cuts out. So the officials on the pitch have to basically be pragmatic and go, "Can we give this a go?" And they had to. It made the BBC website. It did make the BBC and Sky Sports website, and Twitter went mad. It's not the biggest league in the world, but because the VAR failed and we're a month out from the World Cup, that's why it's more news. If the VAR had failed and this was a year before the World Cup, it's less of news. It's the fact that there's no English referees going. We're using VAR in the FA Cup over here. There's no Australian referees going. They've been using it all season in their league. Only the Germans are going as refereeing teams, and they are the only other league to be experimenting with it. That's a concern that I have, in the fact that only 3 professional leagues in the world that I'm aware of have been trialling VAR, and out of those leagues, only the Germans are sending officials to the World Cup. So I have concerns that with this failure that we've had in Australia, that could happen in the World Cup on a bigger stage, in a game, at a crucial time, when there could be a penalty, offside goal, all sorts. It's not good for the Newcastle Jets team that lost the Melbourne Victory. They are pretty pissed off, to be honest, and rightly so, because had that goal been disallowed, the game changes. If that's still 0-0, the game is different in that final. And I'm surprised that the various footballing governing bodies, such as FIFA, UEFA, and then the national FAs, have not consulted with rugby, ice hockey, rugby league, cricket, because you've got to look at the other sports that do use some kind of video referee system or video assistant system, and it did take them a while to get things going and get the right remit and the right way of doing things, and get a thing in place where they regularly review plays. I think what they should have done with the VAR was pre-season friendlies, international friendlies. That's when they should have trialled it, because that's different. And what they're doing is trialling it in competitive matches where the games matter, and teams can get relegated, teams can win titles, or teams can miss out on the next round of a trophy. That is the issue. Is it has massive consequences financially for those teams that lose. Well, I subscribe to some North American YouTubers, and they actually like the fact that the referees have time on rather than stop, start the watch all the time. It's a debatable system with the stop clock. It comes up regularly in conversation. It does get discussed. But a lot of North Americans like the fact that instead of stopping the watch every 6 seconds when there's a free kick, they allow the time to continue and they just add the time on the end. they like that in the football system that we have. Saying that, you've got to look at how their sports work. Very stop-start, lots and lots and lots of adverts. And with football, you can get away with that by allowing the clock to keep going. So therefore, the TV can't put the ads in. Time wasting, yeah, they've got to work out. Okay, time wasting is embarrassing. The diving is embarrassing. The keeping the ball in the corner is embarrassing. I was always told to play your heart out till the final whistle and actually play the full game until you're told to stop. And I think somewhere along the line, when a lot of these kids go from, let's say, school age and their local football club where they're playing Sunday football, and they get picked up by scouts and they get put into academies, they get taught a lot of bad things, such as diving, time wasting, and keeping the ball in the corner, which is really embarrassing. Because if you look at other sports, let's go for ice hockey. If you are a diver in that, you get done 2 minutes embellishment and you hurt your team because you're on a penalty kill for 2 minutes. And you can cost your team that power play because it could be a coincidental penalty. You could be on a power play, but because your player's embellished or thrown himself and exaggerated his fall, you lose that man advantage for 2 minutes. You actually lose a power play. So they should get longer suspensions. They should get more yellow cards. It's very interesting how little of this retrospective diving policy they brought in, how little it was used this season. There were so many. Ashley Young does it almost every game. Ashley Young has balance issues. That's how Man United call it. No, he dives a lot. It's embarrassing. He's not even a good player. But Ashley Young is one of the prime divers in the league. Who else is a big diver? There's a lot. I mean, every team has got one player that dives a lot. But Ashley Young he's embarrassing. And the Daily Mail has the funniest thing. It's called Dive Watch. No, Ashley Young dives a hell of a lot. He dives a lot. Especially under Van Gaal, he was diving almost every game. Every game he goes down softly, and it's embarrassing. I've seen him dive in the England shirt. He dives, but it was at Aston Villa. He threw himself like a rag doll, and at Man United, he throws himself a lot as well. Same for Rashford. He's picking up these things from his more experienced teammate. He dives a bit. Man United players do dive. This is not the Fergie era anymore. This is the Mourinho. Let's play antiseptic football era. Bearing in mind they've had Moyes and Van Gaal before him. Man United players do dive. No, Ashley Young dives a lot. He dives a hell of a lot. Rashford's dived this season. Every team's got a couple of players who dive. Every player, every team has several players. Wilfried Zaha for Crystal Palace dives a lot as well. Benteke and Lukaku. Benteke's dived before. That's cringe. And Lukaku have both dived, and they're big, solid units, and that's embarrassing. I've seen Andy Carroll throw himself. It is cringe. Didier Drogba was the worst, though. But then you got to look at the Italian, German, and Spanish league, and it's just really cringe. And the amount of money they're on, it's just like, if I wanted to watch a bunch of puffs throw themselves around, I would go to a gay bar, but there you go. Kane or Suarez? I think Suarez has got far more pace. He's more manoeuvrable. But discipline-wise, Kane's better. I personally think there's some better players out there who actually score less goals, surprising enough, but are actually better in what they do for the rest of their team, like James Rodriguez. Brilliant player, very underrated. Real Madrid made a mistake sending him out on loan. Messi, with his runs, you've got Ika Muniain at Bilbao, very underrated because he plays for Bilbao. He doesn't play for one of the biggest Spanish clubs. Well, Bilbao is a big Spanish club, but he doesn't play for a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, so he goes unnoticed a lot of the time. There's a lot of good players out there in various levels of football. I think Suarez has got more movement, more pace about him. But it's a difficult one because neither has won the World Cup. Neither's performed well. Well, apart from 2010 with Suarez, neither's performed well at an international tournament, really, for the standard they do at club football. When it comes to World Cups and Euros and Copa Americas, they underperform a lot. Baddest injury in sports. I've seen a few. I've seen broken arms, broken legs, head injuries. I would say anything to do with the leg is the worst. Leg injuries are the worst because they can be really, really nasty. Um, as a hockey fan, I've seen a lot of head injuries. I've seen pucks to the face. I've seen concussions. I've seen noses and ears hanging off. I've seen skate slashes across the face. Um, there's been a lot of nasty injuries for sure. But the worst I've probably seen was double leg break at youth level rugby. Double leg break. That was the worst I've seen. A guy in my school year shattered his leg, and it was a training match. Double leg break. That's the worst I've seen. I've had a few myself, but double leg break is the worst. Um, that's what I think the worst sporting injury has been that I've seen that I know of. There's been some fatalities sports wise, but when it comes to team sports, the leg injuries I think are the worst. Shoulders are pretty bad as well. I've had a few shoulder injuries, but the leg and arm injuries are pretty bad because they're more obvious that that person has injured that arm or that leg. I've seen a few S arms I hear S bend like that where they've double broken. A lot of leg injuries, double breaks. But at the same point, that's a question we don't get asked often on the live streams: is what's the worst injuries you've seen a player sustain? I've seen quite a few. I've seen a guy take a puck to the face and lose half his teeth. We're in a fight, Ronaldo and Messi. I think Messi would bite his ankles off, but they'll both throw themselves to the floor. Um, they're both. I think Messi's got a bit more bite about him. Ronaldo's a bit more of a prima donna, so I'll go for Messi. I actually will go for Messi, even though he's smaller. I think he's got a bit more. He's got that mean streak about him, that nasty snarl about him that Ronaldo doesn't have. Ronaldo's a bit of a pretty boy. Messi's a bit more. He may be muscular, but it's all for show for him. Messi's got that nasty streak in him, where Ronaldo's a bit more of a petulant prima donna. Funniest thing I've seen in sports. Funniest thing I've seen in sports. I've been at a few football matches where the streaker has got the biggest cheer rather than the players on the pitch. I was at a Southampton Blackburn game in the Premier League back in 2002, 2003, and the streaker ran on the pitch and he got the biggest cheer of the match. So I've seen that, but I've seen some hilarious own goals as well. Talking about things on the TV, I've seen some pretty funny things on the TV. But no, the streaker on the pitch, that was quite funny. Oh yeah, no, the T20, yeah, cricket gets a lot of streakers, a lot, and there's been a lot over the years, mostly in Test cricket because you've got 5 days to plan your streak. But you've got to look at the security at stadiums and grounds around the world for various sports. You've got to look at the security protocols that the stadiums put in place. And for some reason, cricket has got some of the weakest security protocols you can think of because it's not a very tribal sport where you're going to have rival fans trying to kick lumps out of each other. It's a very gentlemanly sport where there's a lot of polite clapping and occasionally get the barmy armies and the fans in fancy dress who have a day out. But they're generally in good humour. They're generally have a laugh, but the security could be a lot better at a cricket match. To be honest, I'm not surprised. I mean, I've seen plenty of streakers at cricket as well. It's especially on live TV. It's hilarious, especially when they make it to centre wicket and they're trying to avoid showing the TV. They have to. The arrow on the pitch, that is worrying. That is worrying. I remember that. That was at the end of the last season, and that caused the game to be cancelled. That led to a team being relegated. Sport doesn't make sense. Sport that doesn't make sense. Ooh, that's a very interesting one. I think when you're new to a sport and you're learning it, a lot of it doesn't make sense. But I've watched a lot of sport and a lot of different sports. So for me, most sports make sense because I've been watching them for a long time. So that's a difficult one. There are sports that I'm not a big fan of, Not because they're bad, it's just I don't find them interesting. And there's certain rulings in sport that make no sense. I think that's a better question. There's a lot of talk at the moment in ice hockey about what is and isn't goalie interference, what's a penalty, what's not a penalty, what's offside, not offside. So I think sporting decisions that make no sense is a better question, and there's a lot of them. But for me, most sports make sense. The ultimate goal is to win, and the ultimate goal is also to have fun while doing it. So I've been watching sport for a long time, so I watch a lot of sport. And a lot of sport to me is quite simple once you actually get into it. I would say sports that don't make a lot of sense. I'm still struggling to get my head around baseball a little bit with some of how they work out the innings and stuff like that and the runs, but even that is pretty simple once you get into it. There's a few things I'm learning about baseball. But all told, most sports make sense once you watch them enough. And I mean, curling's one that I don't really like. Curling, maybe, but apart from that, and I didn't watch the snooker final, but we discussed it earlier that Mark Williams did do his press conference naked. But I'm surprised with some of the older players who are still playing at the top level in snooker. But there's more tournaments now than there were before that are ranking tournaments. There's more prize money available, and that's probably why a lot of snooker players have carried on playing. But I'm not watching snooker as much as I was. I caught a few bits of a few games, but I haven't really had time the last couple of weeks. I've had to do mechanic stuff on the bike. I've had to job interviews and other bits and pieces. But the Cricket 2019 World Cup, that's going to be an interesting one. I think the Indians always have a chance. The West Indians always have a chance. Don't be surprised if Bangladesh have a good run. I think New Zealand actually have a very good crop of players at the moment. Australia, I don't think will have recovered from this ball tamperage going on next year. But England are the home team, and home advantage does pay off. So England could have a very good World Cup next year. That will be very interesting. How much do you say? I would say 30, 35 out of 50. I know English is not your first language, but your questions are making relative sense. So you're doing all right. Who should be next Arsenal manager? Well, I've heard Luis Enrique has been linked with the job, but he's got concerns about the club hierarchy and the structures behind the scenes. And that's something that's coming out about a lot of the potential candidates for the Arsenal job. Honestly, I don't know who takes over at the Emirates. Wenger's already apparently been linked with other jobs in football already, and he hasn't even left Arsenal yet. I don't know enough about some of the candidates. I know Luis Enrique is the prime candidate they want to get their hands on, but he has concerns about some of the behind the scenes stuff with the club hierarchy, transfer policy, how players' contracts are organised, and a few other bits and pieces of the club structure behind the scenes. So I wouldn't be surprised if Luis Enrique is eventually unveiled, but the club have got to give him assurances, and they've got to give some of the powers over to Enrique, including transfer policy, which I don't think Wenger had full control of by the end. My sports, I watch ice hockey, rugby, and then ice hockey and rugby are my favourite sports. I watch the most ice hockey, most of the sports that I watch. I like motorsport as well, but I don't like F1. That's interesting. But I'm more of an ice hockey fan. At least you know those players are playing half the time and trying not to show that they're missing teeth. What's the time? Another half hour. Yeah, we'll go for another half hour. And we'll finish by 10 o'clock because we've been going a good while, and we've had some good questions this evening. So, we've had some good topics to discuss. And I mean, some people have joined late and asked the same questions been asked earlier, but that's fine. But no, the Arsenal manager is a difficult one because Luis Enrique is what the media are going with, but he has got some concerns. So I don't know, honestly. But whoever comes in has got to be given the money to spend in the transfer market, and has got to. They've also got to look at their youth development and what's going wrong with their youth setup, because they're developing some good young players and then letting them go cheap. So, will I ever react to sports? I give my personal. If I've watched, let's say, a match and I've got a score, and I've watched a rugby match or a football match or an ice hockey match, I'll react in the fact that I'll give a review of the match that I've seen. But I wouldn't do a live reaction, no. Do I watch WWF? No, I don't watch professional wrestling anymore. I used to watch what was TNA as well. There's a lot going on with professional wrestling that I don't agree with, including wellness policy and how badly enforced it is, the amount of steroids, the health and well-being of the performers. If you remember CM Punk, that the way Vince McMahon and WWE handled him towards the end, there were issues to do with the welfare of him and others, making them wrestle when they were injured, and various other things. But when Chris Benoit died, that's when when Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero died, that's when I started falling out of love with professional wrestling slowly, and then it's got quicker and quicker and quicker. There's a lot of other things going on as well. It's gone too PG. It's just pap at the moment. And a lot of wrestling promotions are struggling. Not just WWE, but even the indie circuit and the smaller wrestling promotions are struggling to make as much money as they were 20 years ago. Tom Curran, yes, I think he'll also get a chance in the Test series this summer against Pakistan. England. I think he will be playing. I think Tom Curran will be playing in the Test side this summer, and I think yes, he will be playing next year in the World Cup. CM Punk in UFC, he's tried cage fighting before. In his initial cage fighting debut, he was battered. I can understand why they don't want to mention him because of what he did, but then, yeah, I don't understand why the WWE network, you've got the Benoit highlights, yet they never mention him. It's the way they handled the initial finding out of his death, and the way Vince McMahon in the storyline was going to die in the limo fire, and he came out and he basically, we're cancelling that now. That storyline's dead. We've heard of the death of Chris Benoit and his family and the tragic events, and they didn't know what was going on. But you got to look. He was one of the few wrestlers that regularly took chair shots to the head daily. And what happened to him was when they did an autopsy on him, they found that he had the brain of an 85-year-old with late stage dementia. He got to the point where he was in his 39 when he died, something like that. But they found that his brain was that of an 85-year-old because of the amount of brain damage he had sustained. There was also issues with steroids. There was also an issue with maybe other prescription drug misuse as well. This is a well categorized. CTE is a well categorized thing. I mean, you've got to look at Derek Bugard, the ice hockey player, and Rick Ripon, two players in the ice hockey that have died because they were taking repetitively a lot of headshots. Now, Rick Ripon killed himself deliberately. That was suicide. And Derek Bugard became addicted to painkillers because the doctors did not look after him. And again, when they did the autopsies, they had so many headshots that their brains were buggered. It's a topic that obviously the hockey guy talks about, Sean. I know that, and he's discussed it at length with each time a plaintiff in the case for CTE dies, the league gets a step closer to basically having to pay less money. CM Punk, you have to listen to the Colt Cabana podcast, which they did, where he references he had I can't remember what the bloody infection was. But he had an infection in his back, and it nearly killed him. The Benoit thing, staph infection. That's when he had a major staph infection, and it nearly killed him. And that's when CM Punk went on his rant did the promo where he sat down cross-legged and slagged off the whole company, which was the best entrance ever, but at the same time completely broke kayfabe. It was hilarious, but at the same time it was deadly serious. That's one of the reasons why I've gone off wrestling. If you look at what happened with Chris Benoit and his family, when you have that many bloody brain injuries, you're going to be doing irrational shit. I'm not going to lie. I've had a few concussions, but if he's taking like per match, let's say he takes 5, 10 headshot chair shots to the head per match that's on a pay-per-view, it adds up. And you do that in training as well. It adds up like a lot, and it gets to the point where you are basically burying your brain. It's common sense. You knock yourself out, you're going to have a bit of a headache. You're not going to feel great. The more you knock yourself out, the bit more dopey you get. What sports player looks like me? Oh God, I wouldn't have a clue. Wouldn't I? With my hair long as it is now, and yeah, with my hair as it is now, I wouldn't be able to tell you because my hair's pretty big at the moment. The mullet of Jaromir Jagr, the beard of a playoff. Fuck, I don't know. I have no clue. They won't induct. China either because she did pornography. The way the WWE Hall of Fame works is stupid. I don't think they will induct China because they've now gone to the PG era, and she did pornography after she retired. She did adult films, so they won't. Not while they're in the PG era, and not while Vince McMahon is in charge of the company. The safety of others, yeah, the wellness policy. They might have got rid of chair shots to the head, but the wellness policy is still a joke because the amount of steroids that wrestlers are taking, it's obvious. Brock Lesnar is a prime example of a roid monkey, if ever I've seen one. I've never seen someone who looks so roided up in all my life. But no, in all seriousness, I think it's very rare that I get asked WWE stuff because it's sports entertainment, and we can argue whether pro wrestling sport or sports entertainment. But the way the wrestling in professional wrestling at the moment, there's a lot of things wrong with a lot of wrestling promotions. Sports have lockdowns. Yeah, no, it's happened. There has been terrorist incidents at sports events before. There was a Germany-France match where the bomb went off outside the stadium. There's been the Grand National abandoned because of a bomb threat. It has happened before. I look like Matt Murray with this mullet? Nah. I honestly don't think I look like Matt Murray, but that's your personal opinion. I don't have a clue what I look like. I would go more for Mick Foley, except a bit thinner, maybe. Honestly, don't have a clue what I would look like. When I cut my hair and shave my beard, I look completely different. So I might do that. It's the beard. Okay, it's the beard. I was going more for just a beard. Yeah, Great Britain in the World Championships ice hockey next year. Yes, that is a big step up, and hopefully that increases the participation. I mean, British ice hockey is really competitive actually in all the leagues that we have, and obviously the Elite League has lost the Edinburgh Capitals. One of our teams has gone out of business, and so the Elite League is trying to find a 12th team replacement, and they're sounding out a few teams in the level below to step up, and it's interesting. But it'll be interesting to see how the Elite League, find that 12th team and who they bring in. Is it going to be Hull? Is it going to be Bracknell? Is it going to be Peterborough? There's several teams that I follow in British ice hockey that I've watched play, including my home team, that could go up to the Elite League level. But We've got to look at how many foreign players are playing in the league as well. There's a lot of ex-NHL players and AHL players playing in the Elite League. But it's great that we are there, but at the same time, I don't think we're going to win a single game. It's going to be nice watching us play against Canada, Russia, the US, Slovakia, Czech, Germans. But yeah, okay, we can go with Andrea Pirlo. We can go with Pirlo. We can go with the late career Andrea Pirlo at Euro 2012. I can accept that. Is it true that this is the best sports channel? I wouldn't say I'm the best. If I was the best, I'd have stupid amounts of subscribers and be monetized again and be making loads of money, and I wouldn't be living in my family's spare room. But I try and do as best I can. If you guys think I'm the best, then I feel pretty happy. At the same time, there's a lot of other good YouTubers out there. So it's good that people think that I'm good enough. I'm hoping the Jets beat the Predators tomorrow night. Simply because the away team in that series actually had a very good record over the home team, and we beat them last time and hammered them at home. So I'm hoping we're going to come out angry and come out quick against the Preds. The thing is, if Vegas wins it, that's going to be interesting, because it will then make it very interesting for the next expansion team, which is very likely to be Seattle, on what the draft rules are for that next expansion draft and how good the NHL allows that team to be. Because what's this? Oh god. Because the way Vegas has been put together, the George McPhee and Gerard Gallant have really put a good team together with what was available to them, and all those players that are now playing in Vegas have stepped up because they're annoyed with their previous teams. No, that'd be really, really good for the sport long term in growing it in non-traditional markets, which is a big issue with the NHL in North America, is growing it in sections of the US. But that'd be great to see, though, wouldn't it? That would be a series. And people are starting to hate Vegas because they're good. It's not because their players are dirty or their fans are not very nice. Their fans are lovely. And the team. There's a guy who's a Vegas fan who's a subscriber to this channel. And he's actually a really funny guy. He actually likes a lot of other sports other than ice hockey. And we have some very good debates on this channel about certain things. But it's interesting to see how the Vegas team was put together and how they've done. The reason why people hate the Penguins is they've been successful. But at the same time, Sidney Crosby does get overprotected by the referees, and Malkin and Crosby get away with a few dirty hits themselves that they whinge about when they have those hits, but they dish them out and get away with them. And that does rub people up the wrong way. Will you be playing Game of Sports? Not in real life. No idea what that question is. Not gonna lie. No, I hate them because of their fans. There are cool ones like Vegas Golden Knights coverage, but the ones on Twitter and stuff I can't. The Golden Knights Twitter feed is hilarious. The way the city's bought in is good. There are, though, bandwagon fans that have obviously bought in. Oh, look, the team are winning. Let's support. I don't like bandwagon fans. I've always supported the teams I've supported since I decided to follow those teams. I haven't gone, oh, that team's struck shit now, I'm not going to follow them. So there are some bandwagon fans that have ruined it for everyone else. I think the Vegas fans that decided to get involved with the team and then decided to support because it was a new thing and learn. A lot of them have got to learn how hockey works as well. We have to, give them a little bit of leeway. A lot of them probably, until Vegas got a team, probably haven't been to an ice rink before, probably haven't watched an ice hockey game before, and they're new to it. But there's always those idiots that ruin it for everyone else. Do I get many troubles? I get the odd couple. We've had a few tonight. Before you came on, Owen. It happens. I get the odd one or two. Some channels get a lot more than me. I've been reasonably lucky, and I only get a few every so often. It's just funny when some of the stuff they come out with, and some of it's really just like, what are you doing? I occasionally do the odd film review, and when the weather gets a bit funky, I do a bit of weather. But sports is my thing. I could do films as well, but then copyright gets in there, and that gets a little bit tricky, and I don't want to get any copyright violations. Um, but I don't have any other plans to do anything but sport. I think sport's my thing. It's a good talking point. The banter is brilliant. Um, the humour between sports fans and the needle as well a little bit is kind of fun. But I found for the most part, people on this live stream, doesn't matter who they support or what sports they follow, you're a pretty intelligent bunch of people. There's a lot of like-minded individuals who know a lot about the various sports they follow, and at the same time, it's great that we can have streams like this where you guys can ask as many questions as possible, and the feedback and the stuff we discuss, and it's all done with respect, which a lot of people forget. And that's where I go back to Shaw's point with some of the Vegas or some fans on Twitter and social media. There is a minority that ruin it for people, but I enjoy what I do, and I'm not planning to do anything else but sports for the main part. I'll do the odd occasional film review if I see a film at the cinema, or if I buy a certain game like on Xbox. As the year goes on, I will have a little look at some of the games coming out that I want to buy, and then I might review how I feel about them. And there's some interesting stuff coming up, sports-wise as well, that is going to keep me very busy this summer in the evenings, which is good because, I mean, it's been great fun doing this channel for over a year now, and doing what I've done, and it's been a lot of fun actually. It's great to do what we're doing, and discuss what we discuss. It's been really great fun, and I've enjoyed for the most part doing what I do on this channel. But at the same time, yeah, we do get the occasional troll, and yeah, we do have a few buffering issues occasionally. The internet sometimes decides to go a bit funny, and that's something I can't control. But as far as I know, my signal's pretty good. So yeah, is what it is. What's the time? We've got 15 minutes before I decide to shut it down. So if you want to get any more questions in, please don't be shy. Please get your questions in and ask away. Okay, in that case, we have a few technical issues, which is a bit annoying. Did I see the championship? What championship? That's a question. I may have a few. No, apparently I've got a good internet connection, so it shouldn't be doing what it's doing, which is a bit annoying. Right, let's see. The championship, the last day of the championship was exciting. Teams going up and going down. Barnsley getting relegated. Cardiff going up. Wolves champions. You got playoffs coming up. That's going to be good. How do you grow amazing hair like mine? You just don't cut it for a year and a half. You just don't cut it. You let it grow. You let it grow. You let it grow. I haven't cut my hair for like a year and a half, so my hair's like that long. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, if you don't cut your hair for a year and a half, it gets about that long, and you can plait it and you can do crazy stuff with it and all sorts. Yeah, Fulham are I think they're in the playoff picture. So I think Fulham are going to be in the playoffs, I think. But yeah, they didn't make automatic, and that comes down to the big game mentality that some teams do struggle with. Some teams just don't have that big game mentality, which they should do. IPL players. Again, I haven't seen enough of the IPL to really warrant doing that, and that's probably my bad. But it's sometimes for me, it's nice to have that little break for a few days from the intense, sports coverage. I dip into the IPL, but I'm more interested in the English players in the IPL than the league itself these days. It all comes down to where I can view it, and a lot of the VPNs are getting shut down, and a lot of the free streams are getting cut off, and so it makes it harder to see a full game. And all I get is crappy highlights packages, and it's you miss so much of the game. Then there's so much of the good fielding, and then the run chase, and the scoring, and the bowling, and it's not fun. But it is what it is with the current YouTube copyright violations and bits and pieces like that. As it is, it makes it difficult. The thing is, the amount of English players that have gone to the IPL this year as could make a full starting 11 of a one-day side. That's what's amazing about it, is we've actually got enough players going now to have an impact on English cricket in a positive way long term, and the ECB are still trying to strangle it, which I do not understand, because they're developing. A lot of these are young players, and they're developing skills that they can transfer to one day and test match. Yeah, we've discussed Mark Wood, Britannic Hope. He wants to get selected for the national side. Whether he does or not, that's up to the England selectors. But like, on my view of things, I think the way that the ECB keep trying to hinder T20 development in this country and their players' development abroad is wrong. So that's my view on the ECB. They've been doing it for the best part of a decade. It's really pissing me off as a cricket fan. Really annoying me. But in a couple, pick the test team of my choice. I'm assuming I'm allowed to use past players as well, because if I can't, then it'd be a bit annoying. I would have. This is interesting. I'm going to go for the players that I've seen play. So I've retired. I'm going to pick some retirees here, but I would have Graham Smith as a starter alongside Michael Vaughan. I'd have Jack Callis at 3. I'd have Brian Lara at 4. 5 in wicketkeeper, I would have Gilchrist. 6, I would have Rahul Dravid. 7, 7, I would have. This is going to be difficult. I would have. This is really hard. Ashley Giles, actually. I'd have Ashley Giles at 7. 8, I would have. Batting number 8, I would have. Oh God, this is getting hard. There's a West Indian player I'm thinking of, and it's really annoying me. I wouldn't have Vaughan. His batting wasn't good enough. I want to have a long tail. I like having a long tail. 7, 8. I'm on 8. I would have. I'd have Brett Lee at 8. 9, I would have Wasim Akram, because of what he could do with the ball. It's brilliant. 10, I would Tino Best, and 11, I would have Jimmy Anderson. Notice I've missed out Freddie Flintoff from that because I've got Jack Callis as an all-rounder. That would be my test 11. 12th man would be who would 12th man be? 12th man. Who would I have a 12th man? AB de Villiers at 12th man. Yeah, I would have AB de Villiers as 12th man, so I could interchange AB de Villiers with any of the top 6 batsmen. Notice no Chris Gale in there. Who's better in group? What is better group in sport like this? Germany, I just have more population, so they can churn out more sportsmen. No Kohli, no Virat Kohli. I'm going on all-time cricket. That's what I would have. Notice I didn't pick Tendulkar either, because I've got some more explosive batsmen who can rack up runs really quick in there. Gale has played. The thing with Chris Gale is he was a Test player and he got greedy. Same with Marlon Samuels. The West Indians have an issue with some of their best players getting greedy and not being happy with the West Indian centralised contracts they're offered, and they leave the Test arena and the first class arena and they go to T20 competitions around the world and they refuse to play for the Test side. The issue is, again, the West Indies is an amalgamation of nations playing under one banner, and there's national rivalries as well with player development funding, etc. So the West Indies not as good as they were test wise 20 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, the West Indies were almost unplayable. Now they're not as good as they were, and that has ramifications for the sport long term. But that's another question for another day. It's all to do with money. I honestly don't think he will. Plus, he's past it as a test player. Test bowlers will get him out. He's if you look at him in the T20 in the IPL, he will have one good game where he will score a rapid half century or century and hit it for six. But in the Test arena, he tries a lump it for six, he gets out. His technique is club it, or he can't run between the wickets fast enough. He's not mobile enough. And his shot selection is smash it for six or not at all. He doesn't do slow, steady innings anymore. 20 over cricket is his format. He has passed the point of being an effective test player because of his age. And because he spent so long away from the test game as well, he try and get him back in wouldn't work. And it would definitely cause problems within the West Indian test setup and in that dressing room, because he's such a massive egotistical wanker. That would piss off his teammates no end. Because he's not on a centralised contract, he's on big money, so he doesn't need a centralised contract because he's minted and he's a bit much for some people to deal with. But we've discussed a lot about cricket, and I think I've named my starting 11. And I would have AB de Villiers 12th man. No, I never liked Kevin Peterson. Talented batsman. He came up with a reverse sweep shot, was one of the first players to do that. But the South Africans found him a pain in the arse. So he emigrated to the UK, used the fact that one of his I think one of his grandparents was English, got in the English Test side, and then rubbed a few people's feathers up the wrong way. Rubbed some people up the wrong way. Didn't get on with a lot of the people in the dressing room. Was an absolute pain in the arse for his teammates. He wasn't very popular. He was very disruptive. He undermined several of his captains, made it difficult for them and the coaches to do their job. Brilliant player, but his ego took over far too much. Morgan's Irish, but again, it's a weird one. You can claim nationality rights by living somewhere for 5 years. They've got to change that rule. But the Irish now have a test side, so Owen Morgan's probably kicking himself because he's played one days and T20s for Ireland. So there you go. But it is what it is. He's been part of the England setup because the Irish couldn't keep hold of him on a centralised contract, so we could offer him more money. That's the problem. Same in rugby as well. Rugby and rugby league. The poorer nations who had developed the talent can't afford to pay them, and the big nations go, "We'll have you because you qualify for a passport." Yes, Jofra Archer does want to play for England again. There's a few things in the way of that. He's got to do his qualification period. Again, that's got to be looked at. It's an issue which is not just a cricket issue, it's a sports issue whereby all you've got to do is be resident for 3 to 4, 5 years and you can qualify for a passport, and then you can play for the nation of your passport. You have to be developed with that system. You don't have to, be involved in the youth setup. You can just be a mercenary player. And that's that. And I have heard he's been doing very well and he's developing very well as a young cricketer. He has a very exciting future ahead of him. Okay, we have another pervert. Let me just get rid of this bloody pervert because we've got another fucking pervert. But here's the thing: if you support Surrey, you're going to have an opinion. I mean, this is why I rarely do videos on the teams that I support. I haven't done any videos on Blackburn Rovers, even though we got promoted to the Championship, because I don't want to be seen as a biased fanboy. I like doing this channel because I'm neutral and I'm non-biased to go away, you annoying little turd. Okay, we've had another troll because he's a pervert. No, but the reason why you're watching is because you support Surrey. So you're going to see a lot more of these players play. You're going to see a lot more of these players, when they do their media appearances. You're going to be invested in the team, and you're going to have an unnatural bias, whether you mean to or not. That's why I do very few videos on the teams I support. It's not because I don't like the teams I support and I don't follow them passionately. It's because I don't want to come across as a biased individual when I'm doing a match review or a video on that team and going, look, this is my view on it. Because, there are certain things that I want to be as neutral as possible and be as objective as possible. And I know my view is going to be different to other people's views on a certain sport and on a certain issue, but I'd rather be outside the box, 50-50, looking at it neutral, than going in with a biased opinion on a player or a team or a league because of that reason. It's probably why I don't do as many NRL videos, is because firstly, there's a lot going on in the NRL that's not positive right now. There's a lot of scandal in the NRL and there's a lot of things going on that aren't good. And secondly, I have a biased opinion over Super League because it's better quality and I don't want to keep coming across. Yeah, Surrey is one of the top teams in the country. So is Essex. Virat Kohli has chosen very, very well in the team that he goes to this summer. Because if I'm honest, Surrey is one of the top teams and has been one of the top teams for a very long time in this country in first-class cricket. They play at the Oval, which is the second, the other ground in London, and they've always produced good cricket players, both domestically and the international players that go there. They've always had a good playing group and a good playing culture. So, and it's good to see so many Surrey players doing well. They're my local professional cricket team. I mean, Berkshire cricket, we're in the third level and we're not fully professional, but Surrey, I want to go see county cricket, is my local county cricket club in this country. That and Hampshire, I split between the two. I can go to the Rose Bowl in Southampton or go to the Oval in London and watch a first-class county cricket match. But it is what it is. Anywho, I'm going to wind it down now. So I want to say thanks to everyone who participated. We've had a couple of idiot trolls, but there we go. It happens every live stream, it seems. But it is what it is. But no, we've discussed some really, really good things. Really, really interesting stuff. We've discussed multiple sports. We've discussed a lot of cricket tonight as well. And at some point later this week or this weekend, there'll be another live stream. And then next week I'll start a new job, another contract. So I'll be doing mostly evening-based videos, and so might have to wind the live stream down to the weekend days. So we'll have to see what happens there. But no, thank you very much for everyone who took part. Really good live stream. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I will have some more videos for you soon. And yeah, cheers everyone. Good night.